What's up, fellow gamers? We have entered July, which means it's time to take a look back at June to see which indie games were played the most. I will exclude bigger studios, of course, and these fucking clicking games that have been plaguing Steam these past weeks or months now. If I were to include clicking games that were released in June, in the top 20 we have 6 of these games. It's crazy that so many people are playing them. I don't get it at all. And I mean, they can't even be called games, it's just money farming for the developers as they get a profit from the card sales. Well, let's not get dragged into that. I have also 2 other games on the list that I have a concern for, but in another way. Well, let's talk about that when we get to them. Instead, let's get to the bottom of the list first. Let's take a look at the most played indie games in June. Actual games. In 10th place, we have Empires of the Undergrowth. It hit an all-time peak of 6,300 and have a 24-hour peak of 1,400. It has a 94% positive reviews, insane, and on Twitch it peaked at 35,500. That was, however, 7 years ago when the game first released into early access. The game cost $30. I mean, isn't this the perfect setting for an RTS base builder? This is kind of what happens in real life on the ground. Ants building their home while gathering resources and defending it. This one have been in early access since 2017. That's a long time. But it finally hit 1.0. The game looks very ambitious, from the building part of the game to the various ants you can use, to the exploration and the combat, so don't miss Empires of the Undergrowth if you like RTS and are fine with ants. In 9th place we have Drug Dealer Simulator 2. It hit an all-time peak of 9,000 and have a 24-hour peak of 4,500. It has 73% positive reviews and a Twitch peak of 58,000. That's a lot of people. The game cost $24. My friend showed me Gas Station Simulator the other day, and in this one you are a drug dealer. This seems to be a simulation game for almost anything nowadays. And I mean, yeah, it's better you're a drug dealer in a game than in actual real life. This is the second game in the series. The map is supposedly 6 times bigger as you hire gang members, build out your lab, bribe people, do some fighting, and a lot more. The game doesn't look half bad to me, and you can also play it with friends. Okay, so the next 2 games are the 2 I was talking about in the beginning. To me, the numbers for these 2 games look a bit weird, like they might have faked their numbers. So I'm just briefly gonna go over them and show you what I mean. So if we start with Pizza Hero, look at this. Here, 9 in the evening, you have 22 players, and then it jumps up. This is 10 minutes later, you have 9,100. And then 10 minutes later, it's down to 1,000. And then in less than an hour, like in half an hour, it's down to 22 again. And this happens several times. I just find this very interesting and I can't explain it. And it happened recently as well, on the 5th. It just spikes to 9,900, 20, 30, 40, and then 50. Down to 25, and before it was 26. Like this, it feels like they're buying plays for the game. This looks very shady to me. And the other weird thing here is that you only have 27 reviews. That's very low if you have 9,000 players that have played this. And then we have Asteroids++. The same thing is happening here. You go from 2 players, 20 minutes later 9,300, and then 10 minutes later we're down to 400, 10 more minutes we're down to 3. What is happening here? Why does it look like this? This is super weird to me. And the same goes for the reviews for this one. You get 34 reviews. That's very low if you have over 9,000 that have played this game. If you have a good explanation for this, I would like to hear it, but to me it looks like they're faking their numbers. Like they have bought views but plays for the game. I don't know. Why is this happening? I can't explain it. So I don't really want to promote this if it's shady, but if it isn't, I would happily be wrong about it. So I just want to show this because numbers might not always show the whole truth. Because a natural curve should look like something like this. It goes up and down, where you see the players dropping off. And you can see this for all these games. Like it drops off, but player comes back in waves, but not on these 2. Well, they do, but just it's super sharp. If I don't hear a good explanation for these numbers, I will probably exclude games that look like this in the future for this list, so we can promote games that actually have players. But yeah, let's move on. In 6th place we have Aska. It hit an all-time peak of 10,700 and have a 24-hour peak of 5,500. It has 77% positive reviews, and on Twitch it peaked at 22,000. The game cost $25. Aska feels very similar to Valhalla. It's the same type of survival crafting game with Norse mythology as its base, thereof the name as well. You are building up your Viking tribe in this one, and you can do it alone or with up to 3 friends. There is a focus on the tribe here, with villagers to command. They can help out in the village with tasks as your village grows. They can also help out in battle as you explore the lands. In 5th place we have 100 alien cats and 100 space cats. I'm putting these two together as they are basically the same game from the same developer. They both have an all-time peak of around 14,000 and a 24-hour peak of 300 to 700. Alien Cats have a positive review rate of 94%, while Space Cats has 66. And again, 100 Alien Cats have a peak on Twitch with 20,000, and Space Cats have 27. So high and low between these two when it comes to Twitch. They are both free to play, which is kind of cool. The developer has made around 12 of these games, but the goal is to find 100 cats. That's basically what you do in these games, looking for cats in pictures. Like I mentioned, these two are free. The rest costs, but they are very cheap, like $1 or so for them. And it's kind of cool to see that a lot of people find these games enjoyable, and that Steam can provide a truly wide variety of games, and that basically any game can become popular. There seems to be some bugs when clicking on the cats, but hopefully not completely game breaking. In 4th place we have Bodycam. It hit an all-time peak of 16,400 and have a 24-hour peak of 2,000. It has 74% positive reviews and a Twitch peak of 79,700. Quite a lot of people have been interested in this one. The game cost $33. Bodycam looks really cool to me and have the same concept as Unrecord. Unrecord is the single player game that blew up that people thought were fake because the graphics were so good. Bodycam is instead a multiplayer and plays a bit like Counter-Strike. You have deathmatch and planting bomb, and then the game is focused around hyper-realism. I mean, the game looks incredible, but I wonder about the depth. It's in early access and will stay there for several years, so more content will certainly be added. In 3rd place we have The Four Sins. Probably the most downvoted game I have seen in a long time. It hit an all-time peak of 19,900 and have a 24-hour peak of 203. It sits at 24% positive reviews, which is insane in the wrong direction, and at Twitch it peaked at 72 people. The game cost $10. So, The Four Sins. I mean, from the trailer or showcasing of the game, it looks alright. The graphics are good, the horror looks on point, and it plays like an escape room, and is based on one actually. The game is played in 4-player co-op, where you work together to solve puzzles, find clues in order to escape the ghost town you're stuck in. And on paper it sounds good as well, but the Steam reviews tells another story. The game is plagued by bugs. And it seems like the matchmaking is basically broken. You have to wait for a long time before you find a game. And I mean, if 203 people are playing it, you need some friends if you're gonna be able to play this. It's a real shame the game turned out this way, because there seems to be a lot of people interested in it, with a peak of 19,900 players, and the 3rd most played game in June. But yeah, you shouldn't release an unfinished game. In 2nd place we have Dark and Darker. It hit an all-time peak of 57,000 and have a 24-hour peak of 34,000. It has 74% positive reviews, and on Twitch it peaked at 274,700. That was, however, 17 months ago. But yeah, this game have really been through the ringer. After some legal battles, it is back on Steam. It was down for quite a while. It got released back into early access 17th of June and will remain in early access for about 1 to 2 more years. If you haven't played Dark and Darker, it's a first-person PvP PvE dungeon crawler, basically an extraction shooter but in a fantasy setting. Pretty cool and unique game that is supposedly very hard. The game is free to play, but the game comes with some limitations, like you only get to play the normal mode, you're limited to 1 character, but if you upgrade your account, it costs like $30. You can play hard mode and you get a lot more character slots. And the most played in the game of June is Chained Together. It hit an all-time peak of 94,400 and have a 24-hour peak of 49,800. It has 90% positive reviews, really good, with a Twitch peak of 218,000. The game cost $5, really cheap. And yeah, I'm not surprised at all that Chained Together is in first place. This is basically Only Up, but in co-op, like the perfect streamer game, and we can see that from the Twitch numbers. Only Up became a massive on Twitch before getting removed, and like Only Up, the goal is simple: get to the top. The twist in Chained Together is that you and your friends are chained together while you're trying to make it to the top. It's so fun to see that such a simple concept and execution can be so popular. The game is just random assets stacked on top of each other to create a platforming challenge. But with that said, Mario and all other platforming games are basically the same thing, just executed a bit better. And don't get me wrong, this is executed a hell of a lot better than Only Up. And it looks like a lot of fun with a few friends. So yeah, I will try to find time to play this one. These were the most played indie games for the month of June. Thank you so much for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!